Well, hello, greetings. Lovely to be with you. So, a number of announcements. Our next online retreat is May 31st through June 2nd. It's a weekend retreat, just that last day of May. So, we'll start on a Friday and go through Sunday. And then the next in-person retreat is at the Kripalu Yoga Center in Massachusetts, July 14th through the 19th, a 5-day in-person retreat. I hope you can be at both of those. Maybe one of them, maybe both, but be wonderful to have you. And of course, many of us last weekend, we were on a retreat in San Diego, and that was so nice to be together with everyone and so many beautiful connections. You know, I set up the retreat in San Diego to be in silence. But after the first meeting, everyone was so happy to see each other, and to see each other in person, in reality. And there's so many big smiles, and the energy was really high from the satsang and everything. And it's just like, what the heck? It's good for us to connect. It's so good for us to connect. Like most of us, we live just scattered out all over the world, and it's a rare thing to really be with other deeply spiritual individuals. And so, of course, when we want to come together, we want to connect, we want to talk, we want to smile, we want to look each other deep in the eyes and just see God's grace pouring out through the eyes of, just a friend, just a friend. And how beautiful it was. So anyways, I do hope you can join on retreat. And, when I think of retreat, I think of it as a time to connect fully with God, to connect fully with your true nature, to put everything else aside. But when we're on an in-person retreat, we're growing as a Sangha, and you can see it in real time. That my last in-person retreat in California, I think, was right before COVID. And, so this is, I don't know, I guess 3 or 4 years later, and just seeing everyone come together. And it was like, oh, wow, look at this. Look how much everyone has grown. And sometimes when, you look at your own growth day by day, you don't notice it. You don't notice it. But, I have this little girl, and she's not so little anymore. She's 10. And it's like every time my brother, who's in California, sees her, he might see her once a year, once every 2 years, or maybe even once every 3 years. And then he sees her again. He's like, oh my gosh, look at her. Look how big she is. Look how big. And I think many of us on the spiritual path, we're often like in it. We're just with our next evolutionary step. And we can't tell that we're growing. But you give it a season, then you give it a year, and you reconnect with your old friends in the Sangha. And you can see, oh yes, there's a greater maturity here, a greater peace and freedom and radiance. And that's a beautiful thing. And so whether you show up to the online retreat or the in-person retreat or both, it's always a great use of our time. I can't think of any better way to use our time than connecting and diving deep and opening to our divinity. And so why don't we do that right now? Let's shut down our eyes. And I invite you just to notice right away from a place of great compassion. Where in your body can you relax? Can you let go? You kind of shake off, any of the pressure of everyday human life. What's here that needs to be surrendered? It needs to be surrendered. So let us breathe in and breathe out, softening and opening. And again, in the most compassionate way, just asking, what is here? What's here that needs to be released? And so sometimes we hold things physically in the body. And so can we release the forehead, back of the skull, the neck, the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, all the joints, the hips, the knees, ankles. Sometimes we hold so much tension in our joints. So just taking some deep, full breaths and really letting go. Letting go again in the shoulders and behind the heart, and the chest, the solar plexus, and the abdomen. Can we soften? Can we melt? And right away, you may begin to notice everywhere that you breathe deeply and surrender. You may begin to notice relaxation and also this experience of radiance. Radiance. The natural state of the body is radiance. Can you feel this radiance? Can you hear this radiance? It's like a very sweet hum, just a light humming, the aliveness of your being just humming. Hum of creation. That first line from the Bible. In the beginning there was the Word. And the Word was Om. Om. It's this radiant Om. And can you also hear the sound of silence? Can you sense and perceive the immensity of your radiance, the immensity of the silence, the immensity of the spaciousness? And so we're stepping into our original nature, which is silent, radiant, spacious, compassionate, And continuing to open down into the abdomen, the hara, and noticing this quiet depth, this unmeasurable strength, a divine essence that has lived through everything, countless lifetimes, the coming and going of all kinds of things, of everything, actually, the coming and going of everything. So we're getting tuned in to our depth, tuned up to our divinity, tuned in and tuned up. Can you hear the silence? Can you feel and sense the radiance? Can you know yourself as this presence? An inextinguishable presence. Cannot be put out. So beautiful. Tuned in and tuned up. Okay. And so you can open your eyes if you like. Yes, I will welcome you here, fully to satsang. It seems like when we first arrived, a lot of you are kind of just like floating all over the place. And we need to sit for a little bit and get tuned in, get tuned in. You know, some of you, I don't even know, some of you are too young to remember that old radios that you had to like tune the dial. It's old transistor radios that you have to like kind of tune it in, get the sound just right, fully arriving here. And so I had this funny question right at the end of the retreat, and I don't know if it was a question or a complaint. You know what? I'm just going to say it just to have a little bit of fun. You know, someone came and they traveled. They traveled from pretty far, and at the end of the retreat, this fella came up to me. He said, "You know, I was really hoping to have kind of a big, explosive experience." You know, and I was kind of like packing up, you know, the camera and everything, and I was like, "Oh." All right. All right. And I think that's what many of us are wanting, a big, explosive experience. We want to show up on retreat and have our socks knocked off. You know, that's what I always wanted. And, you know, I always got it, you know, to some degree or another. And of course, many people on the retreat came up to me and said they got that experience. But, you know, sometimes we want something, we want to be blasted open. And I think that's an excellent desire, ever since I was a kid. I knew that this prison cell that I was in, the prison cell of my body and my mind, I knew it wasn't the truth, and I knew there was a greater reality. And so I fully understand this desire. It's like, yeah, like I think intuitively all of us know that there is this huge world of divinity that most of us are not tuned into. And a great question is, well, what am I tuned into? Because every great sage, every great master, every enlightened being has all said the same thing. This truth, this light, this freedom, this love is here now. It's always been here. It's always been here. This immense, vast, spacious freedom is the fabric of the universe, literally. Just go look out at the night sky, you'll see it. You look at the day sky, you'll see it. But if you look into your thinking mind and you look at your thoughts, if you are infatuated with your thoughts, which most people are. So I'll ask you right now, are you infatuated with your thoughts? Are you infatuated with your story? If so, you're going to miss this hugeness which is here. You'll miss it. And for some of you, you may say, geez, that sounds a little harsh, Craig. It's just a basic truth. If we're infatuated with our mind, and I know some of you like have a life where you live in pain. And when we live in pain, like our mind is screaming at us. It's like, I'm in so much pain. This hurts so much. And so we have trouble seeing the truth. But for most of us, in fact, like the one who asked me this question, or who had this desire, has a really busy mind. And you can't have a real busy mind and expect to be able to step into freedom right away. I mean, you could try that. Some people do, but they don't pull it off very long. And again, like sometimes we have a real busy mind, we have an existential crisis, and then our mind just like breaks down for like a moment or for an hour, and we get this glimpse of this massive reality. But, a couple minutes later, a couple hours later, it dissolves. The aperture gets narrow again. And so my question to you is, if you want something great, what price are you willing to pay? Are you willing to surrender the infatuation you have with your story? And whether the story is, I'm the best or I'm the worst. Like many people, and I keep learning this, and this is a funny thing to learn as a spiritual teacher. Many people on the spiritual path I'm going to say this, kind of hate God. Like, it makes me almost laugh out loud, like when I just say that. And many people on the spiritual path hate God because life on planet Earth is hard. It just comes down to something that's simple. When I was at Mass this morning, Catholic Holy Mass. I like saying that just for fun. Um, the priest said in the beginning, we are here to worship God. Like sing praises, worship, have gratitude. And I was like, oh, wow, like that's what Mass is about. And then he said, the third thing, he said, and to petition the divine with our prayers, to bring our sorrows. Now, most people on the spiritual path don't do the first and second thing. So before God, the creator, the first thing we bring is complaints. I don't like this world. I don't like the way I'm feeling. I don't like my partner. I don't like my paycheck. I don't like my bank account. And I don't like these wars that are going on. We move it off into something, that's not so narcissistic. Again, forgive me if I'm being a little harsh, but just to drive home this point. But it really shocked me this morning. Like we got up, we went to the early Mass, and he said, we are here to worship and to have gratitude for the divine. This is something we've forgotten in our culture. Is having gratitude. We have forgotten who the creator is. And instead, we're looking at the creator as like the creator is the complaint department. It's like we're just going to give God all of our complaints. I don't like this. I don't feel good. I'm a victim. I'm hurting. And again, like we need to do that with God, but it's important to remember first who we're speaking to. Who we're speaking to. And when you actually see, when you see God, when you're speaking to God and you see her hugeness, her vastness, her immense compassion, her radiant love, her profound truth and mystery. And if we could just have this, if we could just have an attitude that maybe I don't know what God is doing in my life or this world. If we just had that as an attitude, maybe we wouldn't complain so much. If we just had this attitude of reverence in regards to the mystery of our life, then at least it keeps a door open between us and God. But if we just look at the divine as someone we are eternally complaining to, it's just like if you ever have a relationship with someone and all they do is come up and tell you what is wrong with you or what's wrong with your creation, you'd be like, gosh, I'm having a hard time being with this person. But if an individual comes to you and they honor you first, it's much easier to listen to them, to honor them back. Now, of course, I'm not saying that God is petty like us humans are, but it's just something to consider, something to consider, a different perspective than just complaining to the divine. If we go back to the question, Craig, I want to have a really big spiritual experience. Oh, good. Me too. And so what are you willing to surrender to have a really big spiritual experience? Like if you want to be enlightened, you have to give up your infatuation with your mind. Like, do you want it that bad? Or do you want to hold on to your mind and think you're going to be enlightened in your mind. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And so with this individual, I'd ask, well, are you willing to surrender doubt? Are you willing to surrender grasping? And that's a funny thing when someone both doubts the hugeness of reality, which is right here, and then someone also, the same person, grasps at it. So it's like we doubt it and then we grasp at it. And it's like humans are crazy. The mind that we have is insane. We want to be free, but we're unwilling to accept this moment as it is. How about that? So I got a lot of questions today about acceptance. Let me see if I can pull them up and get a sense of them. And I kind of just merged all the questions into one, but let's see here. Craig, can you explain the difference between control, affecting, and will? How they are similar, how they're different, and where you want to be. I want to be right here where I am. And then this is the second question. Craig, I've really been tripping over acceptance and this idea of affecting or wanting things to change. This is a kind of a conversation that's been going on in the Sangha, between different Sangha members. And I think this is beautiful. It's beautiful to challenge each other and to speak about these divine topics. And like sometimes when we sit together and we kind of talk things out, we can work them out. But sometimes we come together and we just want to argue our point of view. And that's normally not a good way to work things out. It'll still work, but it takes a lot longer, a lot longer. Okay. So let's talk about acceptance. So I'm going to invite everyone to close their eyes, if you haven't already. And I'm just going to ask you, can you accept your life right here, right now? Every single aspect of your life as it is in this moment. Can you accept your life? Everything in your life. Exactly as it is in this moment. I'm going to invite you just to notice, like, what comes up? What comes up when I ask this question? And if you like, can you put your response in the chat? I'll just take a couple responses if people want to write something. If I ask you right now, can you fully accept your life? What comes forward? Can you fully accept your life, every aspect of your life, everything in your life, just as it is, right now? Right now. Yeah, Aaron writes, relief. Yeah. Yeah. Kyle writes, big peace. Yeah, beautiful. Does anyone give me a no? Okay, here we go. David Morris writes, I don't want things to stay as they are right now. Good, good. Okay, good. So here's someone who's sharing their human self. So the human egoic nature always has an itch. It's always like not comfortable, not comfortable. It's always arguing. It's always arguing. Okay, here we go. We're getting another no. Matthew writes no. No. Catherine writes no. I want control and easy perfection. Okay, good. Let's say that out loud. I want control and easy perfection. And if we live long enough and we desire to control this world and have perfection, she's asking for easy perfection, we will fail miserably. We will fail. And I hope people can smile and laugh at that. If you can smile and laugh, now we're moving in the direction of acceptance. Of acceptance. Now we're moving in the direction of a big peace. And so there's just this basic teaching in the realm of spirituality. This basic teaching. I don't know if any of you just heard that beep. I've been fighting with this beep for like a couple weeks now. And, it just happened. So I'm going to accept that it just happened. But I'm also going to look for this beep. Like, what's beeping in this office? What is it? What is it? But I'm also going to accept it's okay. There's a little beep sound. It's okay if I can't control things in this world. We normally want to control. We normally want to control because we have this fear that if I don't control, I'm going to die. And I know that sounds very dramatic, but at the root of every desire to control is so that we don't die, so that life will continue. And most of us, we do not have faith that life is always continuing. It's always continuing. And we're continuing along with it until we're not. And when I say until we're not, at some point we'll just stop continuing with life in this one dimension. We're going to continue on with life in a different dimension. But when we want to control, we're listening to our egoic nature. But when we come into the depth of our heart and the depth of our hara, the byproduct of just coming into this depth is acceptance. And acceptance means I am willing to breathe more deeply. I'm willing to soften and include the fact that life is not perfect. The fact that things are as they are in this moment. And we might be able to change the next moment. And we might not be able to change the next moment. But we can't change this moment. And so acceptance is including, it's just including all of life. It's acknowledging life is how it is. I can't change the past. The past has come and gone. This world is difficult. And so I ask you, can you accept the fact that this world is difficult? Can you accept this fact that the world is difficult? Can you accept the fact that some people might drive you crazy? That the more you can accept the people who drive you crazy, the less they will drive you crazy. So can we accept the fact that God is in charge of this world? That God is in charge, and God made the world just as it is right here in this moment. Can you accept this? And so the more you accept this, the more relief and freedom you will feel. The more peace you will experience. And when you have great peace, which comes through plugging into this quality of divine acceptance that the world is as it is. I am as I am right now. Life is as it is right now. There are difficult people. There are painful situations. There is suffering in this world. There's also bliss and beauty and freedom and all kinds of wondrous things. But if we just accept this is the world we live in, this is what's happening in my life. There's this funny thing that happens. The more fully you accept this world, the more clearly you will see this world. And the more efficiently, the more skillfully you will be able to respond to this world. Just different than control. Control is I want the world to be how I want it to be. I want to be in charge of things. I want to be in boss of things. I want to be El Jefe. And who is it? El Guapo. What is that? I want to be handsome and in charge. I'm just messing with you a little bit. But, some people, like, I'll say this with a little bit of a smile. I've had nothing but girls in my life. And so sometimes in that bathroom, the girls are in the bathroom and they're just like trying to get it just right. Comb in, makeup, hairspray, the outfit, the whole situation, trying to get it just right. Me, listen, if you ever just take a look at this bizarre, I'm going to use the word my mom used, rat's nest that I have on the top of my head, I can never make it look just right. I've given up. I gave up a long time ago. My little girl's getting a haircut today. My wife, she cuts her hair. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll get a haircut. My wife's like, yeah, I'll cut your hair. I went and I looked in the mirror and I went like this with my hands. And I was like, oh, no. I'm looking pretty good. I'm looking pretty good just like this. I'm looking pretty good. And listen, when I go to jujitsu, I got a friend who, like, this is a friend I have from middle school. That's how long I've known this boy. And he looks at me and he looks at my hair and he's just like, Craig, like, it's just not looking right. And he's always made fun of me my whole life. He's just always telling me, he's like, your hair just doesn't look right. And I'm like, look, I'm just gonna run it like it is. and I'm going to be Krusty the Clown for the next couple of years. And then at some point where I'm probably going to have to shave this head, and then I'll be the bald guy. But right now I'm going to be Krusty the Clown. I'm going to accept what I got. I'm going to accept things as they are. And with that, that provides a carefreeness, an openness, a freedom. I'm not going to try to control this mess. I could comb it one way or the other. I could spritz it up and spritz it down. I could grease it back, but it's like, I'm not going to be able to pull any of it off. I'm not going to be able to pull it off. And that's the thing about this world. Is so many of us, we try so hard to fight against what reality is telling us, what reality is showing us. As a kid, I had this curly mop of silly wavy gravy hairdo. And I was a little boy. I was a skateboarder. All my friends had straight hair. A couple of them had afros, but most of them had that straight hair. My skateboard friends, the ones with the straight hair, they could pull off this kind of cool Tony Hawk haircut, circa like 1987. Like, I couldn't pull it off because my hair was crazy. There's just some things in this world, and maybe everything would be a lot better if we just accepted life is as it is. And if we start with just a blanket openness and acceptance, a blanket sense of inclusivity. Maybe you're sitting home pregnant and you got a baby growing in you. And all kinds of moms are like, oh, this baby, and I can't sleep, and I'm up all night, my belly hurts, and I'm being stretched this way and that way. Whatever it is, I've hung out with a lot of moms who've been pregnant. And a couple of the moms, looked at me and said, being pregnant has been the best time of my life. The best time. Because it's a time of stopping and deeply connecting to the baby, to oneself, to God, to the universe, to the recognition that mothers are creators, mothers are goddesses. And so I've met a couple of women who've had these pregnancies where they're fully tuned into their goddess nature. Now, the 90% of the other women that I spoke with were like, oh my God, this is the worst. This is the worst experience. It's terrible. It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so hard. And listen, I'm sure it is hard. I'm sure it is. I'm not going to know in this lifetime, but I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is hard. But there's this thing that happens with acceptance. When we truly breathe into our experience. I've told this story so many times, but I've had a history of chronic illness. I've had so many injuries and all kinds of crazy things that happened to me in my life. But let's just talk about my head injury. That's a fun one. And so I had a good 8 years of headaches, just like terrible headaches. When I resisted them, they hurt more. When I accepted them, when I accepted the pain fully, the pain would transmute into bliss, into space, into freedom. Some people look at me like I'm crazy when I say that. They can't even fathom what that means. But I've had this experience with pain because I've had so much of it throughout my life. Whereas if I just sit and fully accept pain, and open to it. Become deeply intimate with the pain and breathe fully into it. The pain begins to transmute into Satchidananda, into freedom, into bliss, this intelligent truth, into this peace and spaciousness. That's the power of acceptance. Now, a byproduct of acceptance, like I was speaking about before, is it helps your mind to calm down. And after the mind has calmed down, you can make a choice about how to respond to whatever it is in your life. Whatever it is. So say your boss is giving you a hard time, and if you accept it fully, my boss is kind of a jerk. You know, he struggles with whatever it is that's going on in his life. He's struggling with it, and maybe he's projected it on me. Maybe he just projects that onto the world. Everyone projects their shadow onto the world. So if we can really see our boss and accept, okay, this guy, this gal, this individual, whoever it is, like I worked with a woman once, and oh my God, she was so hard to work with, so hard, so hard. She was like a constant power struggle, just always fighting, jockeying for control. It's like, woman, you have the control. I accept your authority. You don't have to put me down. But she did. She just kept doing it. So I had to accept, okay, she is like this. She is like this. She is like this. This is how she is. This is her human nature. And when I really began to accept this is how she was, I began to smile and like her more and have compassion for her. But when I wasn't accepting her, I wanted to kill her. Not really, but I just wanted her out of there. I was like, God, geez, woman, like, please get out of my life. Like, get out of here. And so when we don't accept something, we wish the thing didn't exist. We want them to be gone. We want them to die. We want them to die. And by die, I just mean to get out of our life, go get in someone else's life. And so this idea of, well, when do I use my will? First, we accept everything, that the world is like this right now. And that helps our nervous system to relax. It helps our mind to be clear. It helps us to see the situation clearly and say, okay, this is how it is. And with acceptance comes this great peace and this clarity. And from this clarity, we can say, oh, is there anything I could do differently? Do I need to express myself or my needs? Do I need to set a boundary? Do I need to speak up? Do I need to share my ideas? Do I need to leave the situation? And so first we have acceptance, and then with acceptance, we see clearly. And then we exercise our will. But most human beings, we don't see clearly, we don't accept, and we try to exercise our will. And we might have, what Catherine brought forward, a little bit of a joke, but we ask for something unrealistic. We want to be in control, and we want our life to work out perfectly. And we're going to have strike one and strike two right there in life. We're going to have strike one and strike two. And, some people, like I've worked with a lot of mostly women, girls, but I guess a couple men who've had eating disorders before. And eating disorder, of course, arises out of great pain. Great pain. But in order to heal from an eating disorder, first we have to accept the truth. And some people want to say, like, what do you mean accept the truth? The truth that I have an eating disorder? The truth that I have this diagnosis? No, because that's not really the truth. We have to accept the truth that I am suffering so much, that I am in so much pain. That my psyche is split. There's a part of me that hates itself, a part of me that's starving itself, part of it that says it's unworthy of food, a part that's trying to control itself. So we have to admit that there's a war going on inside, that there's intense division, that there's parts of ourselves that we probably don't even know because we've repressed them so deeply. And so, like, when we start with acceptance, with something like, again, just to use an eating disorder as an example, the first thing we see, like when we truly accept, we see, oh my God, there is a huge sadness that's here. Like anytime I've ever sat with someone who struggled, with an eating disorder, you feel in the heart, oh my God, there's just huge sadness there. There's something there that's wanting to be loved. And so we start with this teaching on acceptance, which is acknowledging I am in so much pain. And as soon as you say that out loud, it wakes up your heart. And your heart naturally begins to love what's here, begins to include all these split aspects of the self. And you see, oh, I didn't have to use any will. I didn't have to use any effort. All I did was accept deeply. And again, like when we accept deeply, something big like an eating disorder, there's going to be lots of tears that come forward. And in that tears, there's going to be letting go. And there's going to be compassion that arises. And you see the healing begins to take place. Most often when someone has an eating disorder, the teaching is use supreme willpower. Use supreme willpower. And, just like anything, when something becomes like a neurotic addiction, when we try to use supreme willpower, it backfires. But of course, there's a fear here. Like, say if we flip the story a little bit and talk about like smoking cigarettes, people say, well, I can't just accept the fact that I'm a smoker. Because now I'm just going to keep smoking. Smoke them if you got them. It's like I'm just going to keep accepting that. And some people, like their shadow will use acceptance as a way to continue doing what they're doing, and that's not acceptance. That's called bullshitting yourself. That's called lying to yourself. That's not called acceptance. Because a lot of people are afraid of acceptance. Like, oh, if I just accept this is how I am. That's not acceptance. That's lying to yourself about your divinity. So acceptance means you see the fullness of what you are, the fullness of the situation. And when you see the fullness of the situation, You begin to wake up and realize, oh, I'm a divine being. Love is the way. I think I heard the greatest teaching I ever heard at church today. I should be able to quote it, but I can't. I can't quote anything. Don't have that kind of mind. It was, I can't remember, Acts of the Apostle, the first teaching of John. It was basically love is the way. Love is the highest way. Love is the only thing we need to do. Love is the way. Because Jesus, this was, after the Last Supper. He was hanging out with his homies after the Last Supper, knowing that in 24 hours he was going to be crucified. And he gave his students, those who were there, the pith instructions. The pith instructions: love is the way. Love is the way. Love is the way. It was something like, love everyone, love the world as I've loved you. And that's the thing that arises out of acceptance. When we accept fully, so we take like huge, deep breaths and accept, this is how the world is. There's a good chance, if there's anything in your world that's difficult, you'll begin to burst into tears. And that difficulty will begin to empty out of your being. And there's a good chance, if you fully accept what you are, sometimes people just think, I'm just accepting my humanity. You're also accepting the fact that you're a divine being, that you are love, that you are love, that you are peace, that you are radiance. You will also burst into love, burst into radiance. And from this love and radiance, again, you probably won't need much will. You just see, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to walk in this direction. Oh yeah, I'm going to forgive. Oh yeah, I'm going to let go. Oh yeah, I probably need to speak up and tell this person, hey, you can't talk to me that way. But you'll be able to say it with a smile, and you'll accept the fact that they are who they are, and they'll probably do it again. And because they'll probably do it again, then you get to make another choice. Maybe I don't need this person in my life. Maybe I need some new friends. And so part of acceptance is also accepting that there's some things you have to do, some decisions you have to make, that every decision you make has a consequence. So acceptance doesn't mean we just sit there, but normally in the beginning, it means we just sit there. So in the beginning, we do just sit there. But when we get very comfortable with acceptance, it becomes this inner attitude. And, again, I'll be a little bit funny here. Like, I have this inner attitude that this world is crazy. That's insane. So when I see people being insane, I don't say, oh my God, they were insane. I say, of course. Of course they're insane. Of course they are. Of course they are. I've been insane. I was insane for most of my life. And so, of course, I can see that the world is insane, that others are insane. And so the beautiful thing about acceptance is it helps us to see clearly. We see clearly the nature of our mind. We see clearly the nature of everyone's mind, because it's the same mind. We know, oh yeah, I've been angry. Oh, this person's angry at me. Oh, I know that. Of course they're angry at me. I've been confused by anger before. I've been confused by projection, or, this person projected on me. Of course they're projecting on me. I projected on people before. Of course, of course, of course. And again, the beauty of acceptance is it frees one from all that psychological pressure of fighting with life. And when we're free from psychological pressure, we can make really good decisions, really clear decisions, very thoughtful or heart-based decisions. Okay, let me just glance at this question again, because I think there was more to it. Greg, can you explain the difference between control, affecting, and will? Yeah. So I want to shift the question a little bit, or shift the response a little bit, and be not so focused on acceptance. So, of course, acceptance first, but in regards to control, sometimes in life, if you look out at your mind and you see that your mind and its reactivity is insane, it can be helpful to give it a little bit of a boundary. And this boundary is a form of control. So say, for example, if you are a rageaholic, just to have some fun here, if you're a rageaholic, we need to put a boundary around that. And we need to put a boundary around that, like, I can't be enraged at work unless I'm a cage fighter, but even that, like, as a cage fighter, like, you want to be, you don't want to be enraged. You want to be skillful. So sometimes we use a little bit of control to get our life in order. Like, some of us, we need to control our spending. Like, we're addicted to internet shopping. Some of us need to control our what we do in our free time. Like, some of us are just unconsciously avoidant, and we're on Zillow all day looking for a new house. Or maybe we're on Instagram looking for a new lover or a new spiritual teacher. How about that? Or both. Or both. Or both. Oh, some of us, like when I was really sick with long COVID, there was a part of me that just kept looking for that miracle drug, the miracle supplement. I never found it. I bought way too many. I never found it. And that's, something that humans have struggled with since the beginning of time, is looking for that magic pill, that magic pill. And we need to put a boundary around that. The difference between control, affecting, and will. So if you listen to the truth of your heart, if you come into your heart and you're deeply honest, you'll see there's some things in your life that could use a boundary around, that could use, a little bit of control. There's some things in your life that we need to affect some change, like we need to create some change. Like, many people struggle with their finances, and it's like, okay, maybe I need to take a course on finances. Maybe I need to balance a budget. Maybe I need to do law of attraction and balance my budget. Some people just want to do law of attraction. It's like, probably not going to work unless you also know how to balance a budget. Live within your means. So there's some things in life that we just need to do. And we need to accept this. Like, we need to accept this. There's some things in life. Like, we all have to pay rent, I think. I think. I think we have to pay rent. Or if we're living in our car, we have to pay the gas. We have to pay for gas. And so what is will? So true will is a force that you can connect to through living in the truth. It's a force that you connect to through living in the truth, connecting to the truth, walking in the direction of the truth. And will is always moving. It's a force that pushes us, that puts pressure, that directs our life in the direction of truth. A very active force. So acceptance is a force that kind of just really opens up. And will is a force that moves forward. Control is normally something that just comes forward in response to negative habits that we have as human beings, like our animal nature. Our animal nature just tends to limit us or hold us back, or it's just not our highest. And so anytime we have control, let's say, let's use sexual desire because that's a fun one. Like, most of us need to have some level of control around sexual desire. But at the same time, if we look at what's at the root of this desire, so the root is the desire for union. And we want to use our will to walk in the direction of divine union. And so with control, we might limit or hold back, or control a human animal desire. And at the same time, use our will to walk in the direction of the truth of that desire. The truth is going to be something divine, not something animalistic. And so sometimes we use control as a stepping stone. You got to say no to one thing, but we want to say an absolute yes to the true thing. And will is that force within us that aligns us with the truth. And for many of us on the path, we find ourselves like a truck spinning with its wheels in the mud. Because our ego psychology is out of control, and we're totally disconnected from our will. And we can accept the fact that, oh yeah, I'm lost. I'm out of control. But at some point, we're going to want to act. We don't want to just accept and stay there and do nothing. We need to accept the fact that I need to grow. I need to change. I need to grow up. If I'm going to wake up, maybe I need to grow up first. Maybe I need to grow up first. A lot of people want to wake up without growing up first. It's hard for God to be awake in an individual who hasn't grown up. But again, sometimes God will give us a glimpse, give an immature soul a glimpse. But that glimpse won't stabilize until we grow up, because we need to be a fit container. Okay. Let's see, there was, let me see if there's another question. Robert Miller is writing, freedom from addictions, no matter how small. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a big deal. Like, if we want to be free, We have to be connected to our power. You know, there's that word, willpower. We don't have any willpower. It'll be very hard to be free. Very hard to be free. Justina writes, I feel arguments and resistance with what is. Yeah. Yeah. So, Justina, I will ask you, are you willing to accept this moment just as it is? And I don't want you to think about like a mental acceptance. You know, I want everyone just to imagine acceptance being like this deep, full belly breath, and almost just like smiling or laughing and admitting, gosh, life is hard. If you could say life is hard with a smile, that's acceptance. But if you say life is hard, and I don't want it to be hard, you know, and your grimace is just like, that's not acceptance. But you say life is hard, life is hard, and you continue to breathe deeply. And you allow the hardness of life to break you open. To break you open. You allow the hardness of life to break you open. So often people ask, why is life so hard? It's hard so that our resistance will be broken. It'll continue to be hard until we let our resistance break down and break apart. Life will be hard until the thing that resists cracks. It falls to pieces. And then you realize, oh, everything is just as it is, and it's okay. If it wasn't okay, it wouldn't be like this. It wouldn't be like this. And also, within that space, there's room for you to affect change if you can, if you feel that that is the most truthful thing, if that's a step in the direction of evolution, then that change will probably come. But if that step is a step in the direction of resistance, in the direction of avoidance, God will probably just keep turning that thing up. I learned that lesson again and again and again in my life. I kept trying to control things that didn't want to be controlled, that weren't mine to control. And I failed miserably again and again until I gave up on that. David writes, I can't accept that things are as they are supposed to be right now, but I have faith that it will be healed soon. Yeah. And sometimes the quickest way to healing, if we want to put ourselves in the right mind state for healing, acceptance is a great mind state. It's a prerequisite for healing. Very hard to heal things you don't accept first. Okay. All right. We all wrote a lot in the chat. Catherine writes to Am, I have to grow up. Yeah, we all have to grow up. We all have to grow. And that's one of the things. And so let's take that on, you know, all of us as a Sangha. one of the things that happens in this world is growth, is growing up. Like, we're going to always be growing up. We're always going to be growing up. For the extent of our lifetime, we are going to be growing and maturing. Growing and maturing. You know, I was out in my yard today working a shovel, and was planting these magnolia trees. And they're just these teeny little twigs, you know, they're like little, teeny little skinny guys. And my wife said, well, how big will they be? And I'm looking on the tag and I'm like, it says they'll be 25 feet. And she's like, 25 feet tall? And I said, yeah, and 25 feet wide. And she said, wow. And I said, yeah, babe, but maybe not in our lifetime, you know, like maybe not in our lifetime. Now, she's a little bit younger than me, so maybe in her lifetime and maybe in our lifetime. I don't know. But listen, Colorado, we don't have much water. And so things grow really slow here. Now, if we planted those trees in South Georgia or something, Florida, yeah, they'd be growing real quick. They'd be growing real quick. In Colorado, things grow pretty slow. They grow pretty slow. And so again, it's just this world, like all the organisms in this world are growing up all the time. And so we don't have to take it personally. We don't have to be offended like, oh, Craig says I have to grow up. He's saying I'm immature. We are all immature and we're all growing up. We're growing into maturity. We're maturing with every breath. With every breath. And after a while, we think we're kind of big. You know, my wife, she works at the preschool, and, you know, they have this thing. To me, it's hilarious. Preschool graduation. Now, when I was a kid, there was only one graduation. Okay, excuse me. There's only two graduations. There was high school graduation, college graduation. I wasn't graduating from preschool. I wasn't graduating from kindergarten. I wasn't graduating from elementary school. But anyways, these little preschoolers, they know when they're at the top of their class, you know, when they're 5 years old. And they know that they're potty trained. And they know how to color mostly in the lines. You know, they know that they know how to eat their lunch without getting it all over their face, some of them. And they're walking around the preschool thinking they're all tough. They're all big kids. I'm a big kid. I'm a big kid. I'm a big kid. It's like, you ain't big. You're 5 years old, man. You're 5 years old. And all of us, like, I can remember when I was, you know, I can't remember how old I was when I first spoke at the SAND conference. Let's say I was 36, you know, just for fun. And I thought I was a big kid. I was like, I'm speaking at a conference. It's like, I wasn't a big kid. I look back, I'm like, look at that guy. He's a little boy. And I still look in the mirror and say, God, I'm a little boy. And so can we accept our childlike and innocent nature? And can we accept that we have a growing edge? And can we accept that we could all use a dose of maturity here on planet Earth? You know, planet where we're still bombing each other and, you know, all of our tax money's going for wars and this and that. It's like, we all can grow up. We can grow up as a culture, as a Sangha, as an individual. And so with acceptance, we smile at the human condition. We smile, we see, oh yeah, of course, I am a work in progress. I'm waking up and I'm growing up. And that's what we're doing here on planet Earth. And sometimes God will challenge us with great difficulty. Great difficulty. And can I drink from that cup of difficulty and see, what is God? What is the intelligence of the universe trying to teach me in the intimacy of my own life? What is God trying to teach me? Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. So good to be with all of you. Please sign up for the next online retreat. Please come to Kripalu if you can. Please open your hearts and smile at your divinity and see this absolute beauty that you are. Please, please do that first. Please do that first. Please see this goodness and this light and this love that you are. I certainly see it in you. I hope you look in the mirror and see it in yourself. And so let us shut down our eyes. Let us open our hearts more fully and invite love to triumph here on planet Earth. May all the wars and violence of this world end. May we realize the highest truth. May this truth shine through us in all creation. May all beings be happy, healthy, and free from suffering. May a new age come here on planet Earth, where love is the way. Love is the way. Where love triumphs. And so wonderful to be with all of you. Good night, everyone. Bye. See you next time.